Women's tennis is terrible. They don't know how to serve. They don't know how to volley. They have no variety. They move slowly. And on top of all that, they're mentally unstable. This is what I used to think. And I'm going to explain in today's Monday morning rant how I happen to change my mind. Now, the context to this rant is the following. A week ago, before the Washington, D.C. tournament, I posted a community post on YouTube and also a post on Instagram where I talked about the disparity in prize money at the Washington, D.C. tournament, where the male winner got more than $200,000 more than a female winner. And I thought this was very unfair because I looked at the quality of the draw, and obviously the WTA draw was much stronger than the men's draw. WTA draw had a 39 cut, meaning that you had to be ranked 39 in the world to get into the main draw, while the ATP tournament had a 142 cut, meaning that you could be ranked 142 in the world and still get into the main draw. So for that reason, I did not think it was fair that the women got so much less money, because the difference is staggering. Now, you would think that people in the comments agree with me, but out of all the comments that I received, there was probably 95% of the comments that were anti-woman. So look, I'm not making this video to change anybody's mind. I'm just going to tell you my story, and you might find this interesting. So I'm not only a coach, but I used to be a player, and I grew up in a town in Germany called Ahaus. It was in North Rhine-Westphalia, and this club where I was training at, called TC Grün-Weiß Ahaus, hosted a professional tournament called the Warsteiner Damen Masters. It was a professional level tournament with many players in the top 100 of the WTA. You might know one of the players that play this tournament very often, which is Maike Babel, who also has a great YouTube channel. Now, I'm friendly with Maike, and I often tell her that I used to be her ball boy at this tournament. So one year at this tournament, one of the semifinals was canceled because one of the players was injured. So the tournament director had the idea to put the best two juniors at the club against two of the female players. So it was one of the players that was walked over to the final, and another player that was still at the side, both ranked in the top 100 WTA, versus myself and a friend of mine who were at that time good juniors, top 5 in the state of Westfalen. Now, my age at the time was 16 and my friend was 17. And the idea of the tournament director was to do a mixed set. And we're about to walk onto the court, but the women changed their mind. They said that they wanted to practice doubles. And the tournament director said, okay. And my friend and I were even more pumped now. Mind you, this was a professional level tournament with stands on both sides. Ball boys, lines judges, the place was packed. And my friend and I were so pumped to play. This was on indoor carpet. And we played so well, and we completely destroyed them. And the score was 6-0. Now, while my friend and I were happy, we were celebrating in the locker room, high-fiving, fist-pumping, had big smiles on our faces. The tournament director was very embarrassed, because that put a very negative light on the tournament, the fact that you can have a couple of junior players beat this professional level WTA players. And then throughout my playing career and my coaching career, there were several instances where I played sets against WTA players who were top 100 in the world. For example, I used to work in Rockford, Illinois, that hosted a $100,000 women's ITF tournament. And there was never an instance where I lost more than 1 or 2 games in a set against a very highly ranked female player. So naturally, I formed this opinion that women players are not very good at tennis, but only because I was comparing them to myself. But all my friends that were high-level players at the time, we all shared this opinion. I wasn't alone. I don't think there was one person that I remember that thought that WTA tennis was very entertaining or exciting to watch, or that they deserved the same prize money. So some of my friends that I'm still in touch with are perplexed, and they cannot believe that now I like WTA tennis, that I enjoy watching it, and the fact that I believe that WTA players deserve the same prize money. So you're probably wondering, Nick, what happened? How did you change your opinion on this? Well, I'm going to tell you what happened. I started training my daughter, and coincidentally, I was training 2 other young female players who were highly ranked in the state of Florida, which then led me to do a tremendous amount of research in how the best WTA players play, because what's most commonly done in coaching is that coaches teach female players how to play like men. And I quickly realized that this wasn't working, so this research that I was conducting was extremely useful. Now, I'm gonna blow your mind with a profound statement. I'm sure you've never thought of this, but listen to this. Women are different from men. A lot of people don't realize this. I'm joking, of course. It's not that profound of a statement, but you have to understand that women play tennis differently. And there was this one Instagram post a long time ago where, I think it was during Halloween, somebody played tennis dressed as a dinosaur, so you couldn't tell whether it was a male or a female. But just by looking at this person play tennis, you could 100% tell it was a female, because forget the forehand technique or the serve, simply the way a female is moving on the court, the way she holds the racket, there's just a profound difference in that. And this is something that was very important for me as a coach, to understand why women play tennis differently. Now, interestingly, not only did this research that I was conducting help me to coach female players better, but also I've started liking WTA tennis. I became very familiar with many of the players in the top 200, and I started enjoying watching these matches. They are completely different from ATP matches, and I enjoy watching ATP matches as well, but there's something about the WTA that is extremely entertaining to watch. Now, one thing that I was of the opinion of before as I trained my daughter was the following: the fact that it's a lot easier for a female player to become a high-level player or a professional level player compared to the men. I used to think this, and I remember having the thought that if I had a son, it would be much harder, to become a pro. It's quite easy if it's a female because the level is not that good. But it was one of the most idiotic thoughts that I ever had in my life. If I could turn back the clock and face my younger self, I would slap myself across the face and said, hey, you were a stupid moron. Because it is not just as hard for a female to make it to the professional tour, it might even be harder. Because what happens to a lot of female players in the development stage, based on things that I'm not going to discuss now, is that female players are more likely to stop playing tennis. And there's many other factors that come into play with this. And you cannot say that it's easier for women, because where this thought originates from is from a man's perspective. So a man thinks that if he put on a skirt and went on the WTA tour, it would be easy to make it pro. Well, yes, of course it would. But it is completely irrelevant, the fact that a man is better than a woman at tennis. It doesn't matter, because women have to play against women, men have to play against men. They are completely separate sports. Now, people often say that the men are the draw, and I'm going to agree with that. But there's a big caveat to this. And I'm going to tell you that the big names are the big draw in tennis. And the best thing that tennis has to offer are the big three, and of course some other players as well. That is absolutely the most spectacular thing you can watch as far as tennis. For example, if Djokovic is playing against Nadal, those matches were so entertaining. I watched some of them 3 times. There's no doubt that these big name players have grown tennis both for the WTA and the ATP. That is absolutely the best thing that tennis has to offer. There was a boat that was making a lot of noise, so we're going to continue from here so we can have better audio. So in any case, the big names, especially the big 3, are responsible for the popularity of tennis. But it's not only the men. There's big name female players, Sharapova, Serena, Navratilova, Chris Evert, that have tremendously grown the sport. But one thing that I'm going to tell you, something that maybe you haven't thought about, is the fact that lower ranked players are unfortunately not that popular. And the reason why I'm making this Monday morning rant after the Washington DC tournament, because I'm kind of proving myself right with my community post that I thought that the disparity and the winner's check wasn't fair. And if you take a look at the men's final, which was Dan Evans against Greek Sport, two phenomenal players, but if you take a look at their Instagram page, you can see that they don't have a big following. And you compare that to the WTA final, Goff versus Sakari, they have a big following on Instagram, so they are far more popular. Now, there's not that big of a disparity in rankings. Greek Sport and Evans are both top 30 players. Evans at 21, Greek Sport 26 in the world. This is an incredible ranking. Of course, Goff and Sakari are top 10 players in the world. So if I asked the regular casual tennis viewer whether they would watch Goff and Sakari, who they might recognize, versus Evans and Greek Sport that they probably never heard of, I'm sure that they would choose the women's match. People are drawn to big names. If you take a look at the ATP rankings right now, between 20 and 100 in the world, there's a lot of players that you probably never heard of, even for super fans of tennis. Now, for casual fans, I guarantee you that they haven't heard of these players. You just take a look on social media, which is a good measurement. Take a look at the Instagram followings. This is something that I'm very familiar with. They don't have a big following. So when you say that the men are the draw, yes, they are, but only if they're big names. I can give you some statistics of tournaments in the United States, such as the US Open, where the women's final beat the men's final based on viewership. For example, in 2021, Leila Fernandez against Emma Raducanu got 3 million more views than the men's final between Djokovic and Medvedev. So for those reasons, women deserve the same prize money. The WTA is a phenomenal sport. It is stacked with talented players. It is super deep. You take a look at the top 200, for example, the Masters tournament in Canada right now, Jeannie Bouchard and Danielle Collins are playing in the first round of qualies, and these are two Grand Slam finalists. So the level of play is insane. It is so hard to make it up there. It's a really fun sport to watch, and I probably didn't change your opinion about women's tennis with this video, but in my opinion, I know how hard it is to make it up there. I know that a lot of people enjoy watching women's tennis, and it's for that reason that they deserve the same prize money. And also, this video is by no means a hating on the ATP. I love the ATP very much. I want everybody that's playing professional tennis to get paid more, not just the men, the women as well, and especially if we're talking about the Challenger Tour or the ITF Tour. These players, especially if they're losing early in tournaments, deserve a lot more prize money so that they can finance themselves properly. So I just wanted to say that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.